welcome back to another Koi Perspective. We're international this time, so we've got Jeroen from Vivani, who's currently, whereabouts are you?
I'm in Tanzania, more specifically on the island of Zanzibar, which is just East Africa, let's say.
Wow.
Close to the equator, far from the equator.
And we've got Joss, who's a little bit closer in Europe, but whereabouts are you from, Joss, for people that don't know?
I'm in Holland at the moment, at home, so
okay.
Very nice to be at home also sometimes.
But no, I'm extremely happy because I was just saying to Joss before that in terms of koi foods, there's not a lot of content out there for people to maybe consume. And I saw that you guys at Kiyomizu and Yoshikigoi have got this new koi food that you've been working on together. So I wanted to kind of get the two people in a video call that have got the information on it, just so people can understand it a little bit. So if I've got this right, Joss, you've been having a Yoshikigoi food on the farm for a while, and then recently you've moved over to Kiyomizu to partner with to have it produced more regular, I guess.
Yes, Yoshikigoi food is, I think, already about 8 or 9 years, can also be 10 years, so I don't have the real time schedule on that. But we have the Yoshikigoi food already for a long time. So we made it at that time because we didn't want, we needed so much food that it was much better for us to make our own brand of food, adjusted to our fish, adjusted to the water parameters that we have on the farm, which is more European standard, as that we needed to buy a known brand of food, also because of the price. So because we do on the farm, we do more than 20-30 tons a year. So then it becomes much more, let's say, affordable to have an own brand of food as to get a brand name and including all their things into it.
Yeah, and I guess for yourself to order that amount of food and to also be using it on all of your stock, essentially, your livestock, it's a massive commitment change, isn't it? So you must have gone through quite a rigorous testing.
Yeah, the testing in total,
to make sure it works.
Yeah, the testing in total took about 4 or 5 years. It was every time doing some tests, which is because you can do a test for 1 year, but if you are breeding koi, you need to know how the koi will develop also after 2 or 3 or 4 years. So that's why it took so long, and you adjust during that time period. You adjust the food constantly until you have the best result for the things that you need. So that means the coloration needs to be good. You need to have a good growing rate. The white needs to stay as crisp as possible, and most important is that the shine and the luster on the skin quality is on the optimum base. Because if that's not good, if the food is, let's say, having an influence in that in a negative way, your fish grow old very fast and the coloration and everything like that goes down. So you need to maintain the luster and the skin quality of the fish. And that's the most important thing of any food at all.
Yeah. And so from Jeroen's point of view then, Kiyomizu is a little bit different in its whole design, isn't it? So like from my understanding of looking at Kiyomizu is it's more life stage based for Tosai, Nisai, Sansai, which I think is slightly different from what the Yoshikigoi food is going to be. But I guess there's going to still be some Kiyomizu things in there that are going to stay the same.
Well, maybe it's good if I say something about this. Actually, before me, and I know Jos for a long time because the food Jos has always used was made by a company I was formerly involved with. So I knew let's say what Jos was doing, and I knew about the food he was using. So when I started a new career in Vivani, and one of the things we did was starting with branding Kiyomizu or marketing Kiyomizu. Kiyomizu is a life stage food, and actually this whole idea is very basic. It comes from aquaculture. In aquaculture, it is the norm that smaller fish get different recipes of food than bigger fish, because smaller fish grow relatively fast. If I want to bring it down to a simple explanation, small fish grow relatively fast. They can grow, let's say, 3 to 5 to 6% per day. Bigger fish grow relatively slow. Let's say very big fish, adult fish, they hardly grow, or if they grow less than 1% per day. So of course, if you have this all percentage per body weight, so if you have different growth speeds, specific growth, then you need different diets. This is the norm in any aquaculture, in trout, in salmon, in eel, in sturgeon, in tilapia, in carp. And if I specifically say carp because koi is also carp.
Yeah.
So Kiyomizu is the whole philosophy of Kiyomizu to make a different diet for different stages in life is something that has been developed for aquaculture. Jos and I met in the new business situation when we became both partners of a Dutch koi association called Koi Cave. We became both the sponsors of this association and both the partners of this association. And then we spoke and we said, okay, it's a bit unlogical that we are both partners and we both have our own food, you know, let's join forces. And actually, the food Jos has in Yoshikigoi fits perfectly in the Kiyomizu program, because till then our Kiyomizu program was junior 4.5 millimeter, adult 6, and jumbo 8-9 millimeter. And Jos's food on Yoshikigoi was always 3 millimeter and higher in protein, for example, being able to give more growth than our junior. So it fitted perfectly in the range. So then we added to the range the juvenile, which is actually the food developed by Jos, which has been for a long time the Yoshikigoi food. So there was no need to reformulate or to adapt a lot. And maybe some real tiny issues were changed. So it was a very big improvement, because it's like a real Tosai food or smaller fish food, which perfectly added to the program.
Yeah. And Jos, from your point of view, even though it fits for, you are using it across the whole farm, every age, aren't you, as well? So that's, although it fits into the Kiyomizu range at that point, you're using it for all of your fish on the farm, aren't you?
Most of the fish, but we also using the Kiyomizu food on the larger pellets. So the big problem from us from the past was that we only could make the 3 millimeter pellets, because when you order on the bigger companies that produce food, when you order a certain type of pellet, you need to order 20 tons. So if we would have, let's say, 3 types of food, let's say 4 millimeter, 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter, 6 millimeter, 7 millimeter, that would mean from every size we needed to order the 20 tons. So that's almost impossible for us, because then the food will become so fast old. We did also sell on the market the food, but that was on a lower base. So we needed it especially for the farm. And then Kiyomizu came in. That was just perfect for us in that situation. So you can combine everything then, and we could use everything what we needed and what we wanted for our fish. So we are combining all foods at this moment.
And so for people out there that are looking at koi foods, this is like for all varieties. You're not variety specific. It's not color specific. It's not growth specific. It's more of a well-rounded for all varieties, all colors, that kind of thing. Like, it's a balanced food, isn't it? It's not something that's a seasonal range or anything like that. And so, were there any specific ingredients that were going into it that was important for you, Jos, that were involved?
You could say the most important thing was that I wanted, for example, all the grains, everything like that that's in the food should be from crops that have no pollution, that have no insecticides on, all things like that. So that was number one. Number two was that I wanted to have high quality fish meal in there. Not like the organs and the soup of the what they produce when they produce fish meal. So I didn't want to have that in there. So the rules for us was to have a high protein, but not too much from what you see more often in these days, is that they put feather meal in there or other types of protein, much soya in there, because there's a big difference if you have proteins from soya or if you have proteins from fish meal. So that became our biggest goal. And the thing was also, when you're talking about coloration and all things like that, on the koi, growth on the koi, it needs to fit on all varieties. So if you have, for example, a Yamabuki, very often they get a different type of food if you're talking about in Japan. If you're talking about shirozuris, etc., white-based fish, dark-based fish, they all get separate foods very often. So that is something which we also could not afford. So we needed to have one type of a food which would be best for all varieties there are. So, and that's how the Yoshikigoi food came to be.
Okay. And Jeroen, from your production side of it, these high quality ingredients are getting harder and harder to source, particularly high quality fish meal, isn't it?
Yeah, I will come back on that in a second. First, I would like to add to the Yoshikigoi situation. Yoshikigoi is a farm, so it's not a big hobbyist, or so it's a farm. So all fish there need to grow fast. The young fish, the little, except maybe the broodstock, but all other fish need to grow on high speed, because basically that's what the farm is doing. They're making small fish big, you know. So you cannot compare it to a hobbyist where we normally sell Kiyomizu to dealers, because many of their fish, they don't really grow anymore. They hardly grow because they are 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. Of course, I think 99% of the fish in the Yoshikigoi is less than 3 years old. So this is a very, and I think maybe Jos can give a much better explanation, but I think in numbers, maybe 70% of the fish is less than 1 year old. So these are all young fish growing very fast. So it's not, you cannot compare it to a pond where you have fish from every age and every size available. Normally, even in a koi hobbyist pond, there are more bigger fish than smaller fish, because normally you add just a few small fish and you keep your bigger fish for very long. Okay, that was what I like to add about your question related to why Jos is using so much of the 3 mil and not so much of the bigger pellets. But about ingredients, you know, I think 70% of world aquaculture is in China. Maybe only, just a rough estimation from my side, 5% of the world aquaculture, or maybe maximum 10, is in Europe. From this 5%, most of it is, for example, salmon farming, which is in Norway, which means the carp farming is 0.01% European carp farming. The koi hobbyists are so small in needs of raw materials that you cannot even make a figure percentage-wise which respects that. So it really does not influence the raw material price or raw material availability if we decide to put fish meal in a koi food or instead of this, for example, feather meal, because this market is about maximum a few hundred of tons, where of course the fish food market in the world is billions of tons. Because maybe you're not aware, but aquaculture today is, for example, bigger than fisheries and even bigger than cow farming or ruminants production. So there's more farmed fish than kilo-wise than cows. So the aquaculture is a massive industry, and ornamental fish is extremely small in this, and koi is neglectable in this. So there's no need for us to try to save recipe-wise with soya or rape oil or feather meal or meat and bone meal or blood meal, because this is a tiny niche which needs close to nothing on a world scale. So if you say, oh, we want to make the koi food more attractive by adding low-grade ingredients, it really doesn't make much sense. You know, normally in a koi food, you only source the highest quality ingredients available to try to get the best performance. Then again, normally the koi hobbyist is also prepared to pay a premium for this, because in the end of the day, he's very interested in getting a maximum result of his hobby, and he doesn't mind about the last percentage of saving on quality. Based on a small price difference, because in the end of the day, you could achieve maybe a 10-20% price difference with finding lower grade raw materials. That is important for a farm, like a salmon farm, but it's not important for a koi hobbyist.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. And
for us, it's important that the ingredients are high. So the price of the food becomes less important than the quality of the food. So that is the reason why we choose the better ingredients instead of the better price.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And the other thing is as well for yourself, if you're growing fish to sell, it doesn't make sense to have a lower quality food on site and resulting in lower quality colours and I guess another thing for yourself is the digestibility of it all.
Yes.
Because even on a farm you're not away from the actual waste product that you get. You've still got a lot of cleaning on the farm to do with filters and that kind of stuff. So as I'm sure you're aware, but I'm guessing the digestibility side of it comes into it as well. Most good quality foods are fairly digestible, aren't they?
Yes.
But in terms of from a hobbyist point of view, then we've discussed kind of like the life stage that we think that it works really well with, albeit Joss is using it all on multiple life stages. What do you think hobbyists will see a difference between using this food, maybe some other alternatives? Is there anything particularly you'd say? Is it?
This question to Jos?
Yeah, well, either.
Well, if I can give my point of view, I think it's very good in general that if you buy a fish from a supplier, in this case Yoshikigoi, you continue for a while with the same food, because the fish already has stress from moving from one water body to another, from one temperature to another, from one water composition to another. So if you can continue feeding Yoshikigoi fish with Yoshikigoi food, is always a good idea. Besides that, when you buy normally your koi from your dealer or from wherever, you normally buy younger fish and they grow fast. So it's a good idea to continue with this food also, because this food is specifically designed to make young fish grow fast. And then of course later you can move on in the Kiyomizu range to other pellets which are still giving a lot of growth, but not unnecessary proteins or other or fats or carbohydrates which the fish cannot use at that point in its life phase.
Yeah, same thing. I just can agree on that. So if you the fish, if you change on food, the enzymes in the intestines have to change constantly on a constant base. So if they are having the same food, that is one step that does not need to be done. So that takes a lot of stress away. So always try to feed the fish with the same type of food as where they are coming from is the best way to go. Yeah. So the other steps is, if you're talking about the life stage project, the bigger the fish get, the less proteins and the less many type of things they don't need anymore. So they will not even digest it anymore. So so you can, for example, you can give 50% or 40% protein to a certain type of size of fish, and they can't use it anymore. They will store it as fat, etc. So on bigger fish, it's much better to have that type of food on than the 3mm pellet which we are using. That's also why we combined our food now with what Jeroen does. So we can also use the bigger pellets, or the bigger pellets, the stage food for the bigger size of fishes.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to touch on is that a lot of people out there will wonder, and we always discuss it as part of maybe pets and dogs and that kind of thing, but this is a complete food, isn't it? You don't need to be feeding anything else at all to make a full rounded diet. It's got everything in there that the fish needs, because you'll see a lot of people will feed other things as well, insects, that kind of thing, mealworms, silkworm, or anything of the like, but this is giving the fish everything they need for the diet, completely well-rounded diet, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been made specially for complete digestion of the highest level of digestion what you can have. So to do extra things in there, Yeah, if you like to do it, that's a different story, but it's really not needed. The food is really produced in a way that it's a complete diet for the fish. You don't need to have any extra attitudes to it in any way. If it's not even on the minerals or on the vitamins or anything like that, it's completely based on the digestion of the fish to have an optimum range and an optimum development. So anything that you do extra is not necessary. You can do, but it's not necessary.
Yeah. And so we're hoping to see this Kiyomizu Yoshikigoi range at dealers around the country. I'm guessing it's still fairly new, isn't it? I don't know how much where people will be able to get it yet. I'm guessing we'll see that over the coming weeks and months in the dealers that stock Yoshikigoi Koi, I guess, as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah, we have started with Kiyomizu like 3 years ago. And we first started to really promote it and explain it and market it in the Netherlands. And I dare to say that we are probably now in the top 5 for sure, and probably even in the top 3 of most popular koi foods in the Netherlands. We also see now in Belgium it's becoming pretty established, and in Denmark. In the UK and in Germany, for example, we're still unknown, actually. And that's also because we need to explain the people that this is a whole new concept. The concept of that you adapt your food depending on the life stage is new to most people, because most people, they are used to buy an autumn food or a color food or a grower food, and all the same recipe, no matter the size. So they have the medium and the small and the large pellet for the grower diets or for the color diets. So when I'm, for example, in UK koi shows where I've been a couple of times and I support my dealers in their booth, then some hobbyists come in, they say, oh, can I have your autumn food? And then I have to explain them, no, we don't have this. And then it's for them, it's kind of strange because they are so used to this, that you have all these specialty foods which are not related to life stage. So our whole idea of life stage food is new to koi. It's normal for dogs because you have junior food and you have puppy food and you have adult food and senior food. It's normal to cats. It's normal to most pets. It's normal to pigs in a farm. It's normal to chicken in a farm. It's normal to any kind of animal, except, funny enough, for koi. For koi, there has always been recipes giving some effects, but not depending on the age of the fish or the stage of the fish. So it needs a lot of explanation, and we need to find a way, and therefore I'm very happy with this interview. We need to find a way how to explain the UK hobbyist that this is a whole new concept which makes a lot of sense. And that it makes a lot of sense is also the reason why we decided to start to market this product, because this product in a way is very logical compared to maybe illogical products that exist till now in the market.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with like historic marketing, isn't it? You always get, like, with koi foods in the past have always been winter food, or in the UK as well, wheat germ is for some reason like associated with a winter food as well, like wheat germ products. But obviously it's not winter specific. But yeah, that's a whole different kind of worms to open. But no, I've really appreciated you guys jumping on the call, and you've made me think a lot about today. I'm having a new setup with a small tank with small fish, like 500 gallons, and it'd be really interesting to try them on something like a juvenile food or something like that to really see the difference. Because in my main pond, I do have a mixed sizes of fish as well, but it's not something particularly that I've thought about, but it does make a lot of sense, like you say, for the age and the growth of the fish.
Yeah, I sometimes, when I speak such a hobbyist in a koi booth, for example, in the UK or in Holland or in Belgium, wherever, and I ask them, do you have a dog? And most koi hobbyists, they like animals, so they have a dog. And I said, okay, when it was a puppy, did you give it senior food? No, I did not give it senior food. And when it gets old, do you give it puppy food? No, I don't. So why not? Yeah, because a puppy needs puppy food and an old dog needs senior food. They understand that. So I said, why you give your old fish puppy food or juvenile food? And why you give your juvenile fish adult food, you know, because why you think it's important to your dog, but not to your fish. And like you say, they never really thought about it this way. It's a whole new concept, which makes a lot of sense, though.
Yeah, interesting. I'm really excited to see how it does, and it's not specific to Yoshikigoi Koi, or you can use this food on other fish as well. So
You
know,
should,
for
actually
people,
you
that's
should.
good.
Yeah, the best thing is that the food, the entire brand of that food is for every single fish. It's making sure that every senior or junior type of fish have the correct type of food, and that is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So don't give them too much when it's not needed, and don't give them not enough when it's really needed. So that's the way to go.
Fantastic. Well, I think, guys, follow everything Yoshikigoi. There's some really awesome interviews with Joss and some walk around tours of the farm on YouTube that I'm sure you can find. So follow Joss on all things Yoshikigoi. It's well worth a watch. And from Jeroen's at Vivani, you've got some other things going on aside from Kiyomizu, which I'm sure we'll speak about at some other points as well. But yeah, thank you for doing this interview and supporting the magazine as well. So it means a great deal. And hopefully, if you've got any questions, leave them in the comments or drop me an email, and I'll come back to you with some answers. But I'm looking forward to hearing about everybody trying out a little bit of Kiyomizu Yoshikigoi Koi Foods. Thank you both for this interview. It's been fun.
Thank you very much. Oh, yes.
Cheers.